Hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space and fruity cards. I'm gonna use the Tangerine Grove Craft Your Life bundle from Altenew. This was part of their July release. And then I also pulled out this Blossoming Apple bundle. It's actually this one, everything's available individually. I purchased this a couple months ago because I was like, I didn't realize originally that it was like a press plate. And I was like, I love press plates. I will have a link at the end of the video in the end screen to my playlist that I'll continue to add to using press plates in various ways. And yeah, lots of stenciling, really simple. Also, I unbox and finally use Altenew Stampwheel. If you tuned in to my Q&A live, it's about a week ago, a little over a week ago, depending on when I get this video up. About a week ago, I did a live. It's on my channel. If you just go onto the channel under lives, I did a live with Altenew, and I confessed that I had purchased a stamp wheel, and then it's been sitting here in the box. So I unboxed it. I used it in this video. I'm not going to do like a review on it right now because I literally have just used it. So far, I like it, but you know, I need more time to actually like play around with things. And yeah, for the most part, the cards I made are kind of clean and simple because I made several cards. I did a whole bunch of stenciling, hot foiling, press plates, all the things. So as always, I will have links to everything I used in the description box below the video. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links, end up placing an order, I get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. It's what helps pay the bills, keeps the channel going, all the good things. And yeah, let's get into making all these cards. Alrighty. So first off, Stampwheel comes in like the prettiest box ever. That's another reason why I've just had it sitting here, because every time I pull the box out, I'm like, it's so pretty. I know. Like with everything, you guys, do as I say, not as I do. When you get new tools, open them up, use them, have fun with them. Don't leave them sitting for months. Anyway, I got the stamp wheel, and then I also bought the square grid, whatever, top plate. Yeah, because square grid flip plate, that's what it's called. I forget when the stamp wheel originally was released. Someone else can clue me in the comments. It's been out for a while. And then more recently, like I think it was just a few months ago, they released like new plate options. So I got the stamp wheel, and then I got that grid plate because I just knew that for me, I prefer a grid. If you love building like kind of wreath type images and stuff, the other plates would most likely like be right up your alley, but that's not really my thing. I just like to stamp. So I got everything set up, super simple. My just initial first impression, like I said in the intro, I like it. I noticed like the flip plate fits like really well into the base. I don't know. In my head, I was just like, I don't know how well this is going to like actually stamp. Like if I stamp and then need to like stamp a second time, you know, and it fits like precisely. And I'm going to stamp it a second time. So I'm stamping the citrus. What's it called? My brain's already stopped. The Tangerine Grove image, which is huge. Something else I love. And I was stamping it onto smooth white cardstock with Altenew's permanent black ink. And yeah, stamped it twice, lined up great, worked great. I was impressed. So while I had everything out, I decided to stamp it a second time on another piece of cardstock. And for reference, the cardstock is larger than A2 size. This is, I think, like 5.5 by 6 inches, something like that. Just to, again, give you an idea of the size of this stamp. It is huge. So if you love making bigger cards, here's another good option. The thing I loved about this was it's not, you know, a floral, but it still kind of gives that feel, you know, because while I will never, ever get tired of florals, ever, this was a fun like something a little different, So I'm using the layering stencil set that is part of this bundle. And this bundle is the stamp set, stencil set, wafer die set, and there's also an embossing folder. I didn't use the embossing folder, but you could also use the embossing folder or just use the embossing folder on its own with the stencils. That's really fun. But I ran out of time. I was just getting way ahead of myself with all the things. So I'm using the layering stencil set and just a variety of Altenew's fresh dye inks. And if you want to keep things simpler, you can just do like one shade of green for the first set of leaves, then do a second shade of green. Like I have 3 shades here. You could do just the lighter shade first, and then the second stencil do the medium shade, and then the final stencil do the darkest. That would look great too. I enjoy adding, more than one color to each section. It's just kind of fun. Get a nice little blend going on. It's a little more work doing it this way because, well, it wouldn't be if you have, brushes for every color, but I don't. I would normally, the before me would probably be like, you don't need brushes for every color. You don't need brushes for every color. Will I probably eventually end up? Yeah, most likely. Again, let's be honest. But I just rub my brushes. You see my cloth there, my little microfiber cloth off to the side. I just rub my brush. I have a brush for brown, a brush for yellow, one for green, etc., etc. Same with all my other blending brushes. And I just wipe them on a microfiber cloth when I want to switch colors. So far, so good. And that's what I did. And I'm using my Altenew like mini blending brushes. Very much like those two. And yeah, I just worked my way through with the stencils. I will say this stencil and the one I use later, with the apple set. These were so easy to line up. Like always, there's, a layering guide and info and color ideas with the packaging. So I do have that open in front of me. I have finally learned, like, open the packages, open the inserts. Look at all that info is there. It's all thought out. Love it. So I use it as reference sometimes, more so to just be like, oh, okay, this is where this stencil goes. Like, but yeah, this one lined up super, super simple. So I worked my way around, I did the greenery, I did the little florals. And then for this one, I did like orange colors for these oranges. And yeah, just built up the color going from lightest to darkest. So it gives it a bit more, depth and definition. Another thing I was thinking of when I was doing this too, though, was this would be a nice one to stamp and heat emboss and then watercolor. That would be really fun. And then another thing, of course, would be splatter. I know people are probably going to mention I didn't add any splatter to these cards. I know. I thought about it. And then I really liked how these turned out, just this clean and simple. I do like it. I just don't do it very often. So anyway, I did all of the oranges in these different shades of yellow and orange inks. And then after I did this first one, the next one I'm going to do limes, because why not? So got all my blending done. And like I've said in other videos, I don't know what it is. I just find ink blending over stencils immensely satisfying. Every time you remove the stencil and there's just color there, I love it. I love it. So got this one done. Fabulous. And then the second one, because I want to use the greens that I used for the greenery on the first one, or what I'm going to use for limes, I switched up the greens for the leaves on this one because you don't want them all the same colors. That just looks boring. So this time I went in with this like green opal shade and Mossy Meadow. Mossy Meadow was the lighter, and then the green opal was the darker shade that I added. And I did the exact same thing. Like I cleaned off all my stencils in between doing these, and then just did like a lighter shade, went in with a darker one, and then would just clean my brush off in between switching back and forth between the lighter and the darker shades. So again, just easy. And I think another reason, I was thinking about this earlier, another reason why I love layering stencils is those of us that have been doing this for, card making for many years, like over 20 years, we tried to achieve this look. in so many ways, and we didn't have the tools to do it, or at least I know I did. You know, I always wanted to get that like smooth look, to add color, just like this. But we didn't have the inks, we didn't have the stencils, we didn't have the tools back then to do it. And I remember struggling and always wanting to there was something about getting that smooth look that I just really loved. And back then, it wasn't possible, or either that or it just took great difficulty. Even a simple ink blend was a nightmare until blending brushes came on the market. So anyway, I think that's another reason why I love ink blending so much, because the inks we have now and the brushes and the stencils, and it gives such fabulous results, and I love it. Plus, I don't have to think too hard, you know. When I actually pay attention and get the stencils where I need to go and get in my little groove, I can kind of zone out and stencil, and I'm watching YouTube videos, got Netflix on, whatever, and yeah, it just works. So worked my way around with these ones as well, and final stencil, peeled it off, and it is ridiculously satisfying. So I've got my little tangerine clusters here, and after I was done stenciling everything, I used the coordinating wafer die to die cut these, and I'm going to tape that into place so that the die doesn't shift when I run this through my die cut machine. And then I pulled out the Altenew Timeless Sentiments. This is kind of their one of their most popular, if not their most popular die sets. I bought this, I forget when this came out, but I purchased this some time ago, and I've had it sitting here for ages. So I die cut my sentiments from scraps of white cardstock, and I'm stacking them together so I get dimension. So I've got 3 layers of the words just adhered together with some craft tacky glue. And then the outlines I die cut from scraps of black cardstock, and I'm going to adhere all of those together. So once I've got my sentiments adhered, I'm going to work on the insides of my cards, and I'm going to make A2 cards, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. But like I said, you could definitely make larger cards with an image like this. It would work perfectly, but most of the time I like to make A2 size cards. So I took my card bases and I'm folding them inside out, and I could move move the stamp wheel in whatever orientation I want, but that's going to take me a while to get used to. So just bear with me, okay? So I tape my card inside out so I can stamp this on the inside of the card, and then just, line up my card base how it works for me. And then I stamped the image with for the orange card, I used the Sunray ink. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my second card. I'm going to fold it inside out, tape it closed so that it doesn't pop open so I can stamp it. And that one I'll stamp with the light green ink, so the Firefly green ink. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to line it up in the exact same spot where the other one was. Doop, stick it down. Good. And then making sure everything's still lining up properly. And then I'm going to ink it up with that light green ink and stamp that onto the inside of my card. And then once I've got that stamped, there are a whole bunch of sentiments in the stamp set. It's another thing I've really been liking about a lot of Altenew sets is they just pack them full of sentiments. And anyone who's been following me for a good length of time knows I'm a sucker for sentiments. You can never have enough. I like having variety. I like font mixes, all the things. So I picked a couple sentiments that would go with the die cut sentiments that I used. And then those I'm inking up with the same black ink that I used for the fronts of the cards. And same thing, I inked up the sentiment twice. It lined up, stamped, everything was good to go. So then I'm going to use another sentiment for the one that I stamped with the Sunray ink. And same thing. I'm going to get my card base lined up, just stick it in the corner. There are alignment guides available too for the stamp wheel. I've seen them in other makers' videos, and I will probably eventually get those too, because that just helps if you are, doing multiples, taking cardstock out of your stamp wheel, etc., so that you can line them up in the same spot again. So, yeah, that's on the list. But anyway, stamp the other sentiment, and then I just needed to adhere my card fronts, like big die cut, covers the whole card. And like I said, I kept these clean and simple. I decided not to add any other elements like to the card fronts, anything. I wanted the focus to be just these great big fabulous stenciled citrus clusters. So I adhered them directly to the card base, pressed it down with a couple of big acrylic blocks, and then trimmed off the excess with my scissors. And then I'll adhere the die cut sentiments also with just some craft tacky glue. And then I pulled out some enamel dots from my stash to finish these off, just to give them that little extra something. So these are also kind of like flat cards, really. You know, not a whole lot of dimension, but if you want to amp it up a bit, you could pop things up with a bit of foam tape, etc. Add a bit of splatter, you know. You can't ever go wrong with splatter. But clean and simple is really nice too. So adhered some enamel dots to finish them off. I used the golden sunset ones for the orange card, and then I just used the clear ones, the crystal clear enamel dots on the green one. And that finished off the first two cards. So we've got our citrus cards, just a couple it's neat how different they look when it's the exact same stamp, etc. You know, same orientation, everything. But just switching up the colors is just a fun way to mix it up. And then, like I said, you can do watercolor. You could add other textures. You could, you know, use an embossing folder on the stamp image, because the bundle comes with an embossing folder, or just a geometric one for the background. Like, so many options. Anyway, now we're getting into the press plate. So one of the things, I love press plates and all. They're just doing letterpress with them is so much fun. But the thing I really love with the press plates is how they hot foil. Because if you haven't seen my other videos using these press plates, there is something magical about them, and they hot foil so nicely. So nicely. So I've got my Glimmer hot foil machine. Had it heating up. Stuck the blossoming apple press plate on it, face up. And then for my first pass, I'm using Altenew's Champagne Mirror hot foil. And you have the pretty side of the foil touching the plate. And then I had smooth white cardstock. I press the timer button until it went solid on the Glimmer machine, and I take it out. This is all in real time. I didn't speed it up. This is how slow I roll my press plates or my hot foil plates, any hot foil plate, through my die cut machine. I roll it through extremely slowly because the Glimmer machine adds the heat, the die cut machine adds the pressure, and I just run it through slow. I usually don't run it back and forth, but this is a large plate, and I knew it hadn't shifted, because running it back and forth, if it shifts, you can end up messing it up. But every once in a while, I don't know, decide that sometimes it'll help. And then just the angels are singing. Everything's wonderful. Like, oh, love it. Love it. Every time I do this, and when it turns out this good, this is why I love hot foiling and the press plates. They're just fun. So I did it a second time. This time I used the Ivory Black Mirror hot foil roll, which is kind of hard to tell on camera, but it has a nice shine. This time I got a little bit of over foiling. Just certain areas just didn't want to release. Like, you can see where it's like just a little bit, little less detail. And when that happens, it's usually because I had kept the plate on there, so it just got a little overheated. It happens, not a big deal. I just take a big fluffy brush like I'm showing, and I just lightly brush it all over the cardstock, and it removes most of the excess. Also, just a little bit of a white eraser with a light hand, and that removes any excess it's not pressed into the cardstock. It's just, it didn't release when you peeled the foil off, if that makes sense. So it ends up all pretty much coming off, and especially when I stencil over it, it'll be good to go. So now, doing the exact same thing, using a lot of the same colors, because I've got the coordinating stencil set, and I'm just going to stencil all of this. And again, just so much satisfaction was had making these cards. But again, I was like, oh, I need more hours in the day, because I was like, I want to press this onto watercolor paper, watercolor these. love. Again, if you haven't seen me watercolor with images that I've run through my Better Press, that playlist I have at the end, because I've done it a couple times and I really love it. And I did a video recently with some of the other Altenew press plates, and I showed like 5 different ways. Pretty sure it was 5. Was it 5? Yeah, 5 different ways to use them. That'll be in the playlist that I link at the end, and I'll probably just pop it in the end screen as well, so you can check it out if you missed it. And yeah, stenciled all the things, just working my way around, just like so. And then for the apples, I pulled in another combo of inks, and again, just built up the layers of ink on the stencil, and I love it. I love it. So I had a light, a medium, and a dark, and just worked my way around to give it that dimension, kind of keeping the center area lighter than everything else. So it just kind of gives it a little bit of a natural highlight. So yeah. I don't have anything like mind blowing to share. Like it's stenciling. It's stenciling. I didn't reinvent nothing, and I am completely okay with that because it was fun. I had fun. So I used different shades of pink for the little apple blossoms. And every time every time I had to lift the stencil off to go to the next section or, grab another stencil, it was just love it. So yeah, you can always stencil over hot foiled anything, really. I've never had an issue with it. Because I'm also you're not pressing super hard. Yeah, any blending brushes, anything. I've never had an issue with anything I've ran through my Glimmer hot foil machine. Like, it doesn't remove the foil. Like, it is pressed in. It's adhered to the cardstock. Yeah. And I've watercolor. I'm just trying to think. I don't think I've ever had an issue. So, but again, just because I love it doesn't mean everyone has to have it. Having all the tools and all the things, not for everyone. That's also why I included just doing the citrus ones in the beginning. That is just a stamp, so anyone can do it. You don't need any special extra tools. And then this one, this was just pure enjoyment on my part. So after I did this first one, I'm not going to show the second one because I did the exact same thing. I didn't switch up the colors, anything. I just kept it the same. So I love the reflection of that. That champagne foil is gorgeous. I really like the ivory black too. It's such a different look, even though it's the exact same thing. It's so neat how they look so different. And then with that press plate, there's several sentiments, which I love. That's another reason why I got it, because I was like, ooh, so many good sentiments. And I used the same foils. I just used different cardstock. So I used the ivory black foil on red cardstock for the sentiments. And then I used the champagne foil on black cardstock for the sentiments. And then the die set die cuts the sentiments and the large image. Again, love it. So same thing, taped all the wafer dies into place so nothing shifts when I run it through my die cut machine. And then another thing that I love is using my press plates on the insides of my cards. Because, again, anyone who's followed me for any length of time knows I personally, a card isn't done until the inside's done. And with press plates, when they first came out, I was like, well, this is great, but what am I going to do on the insides of my cards? Because I need something on the inside. Didn't take me long to figure out I could use my press plates on the insides of my cards. Whether I do it, so I've shown it in other ways. Like sometimes it'll just be a separate piece of cardstock, but I figured out how to run it through like this so I can press directly onto the inside of my card base. So I've got the plate lined up in my Better Press, and then I taped my card base into place on the clear plate. And I'm inking up the press plate with the lightest red shade. So this is the Rouge shade. And I actually didn't ink it up properly, fully. So I missed a couple spots. I'll notice that when I run this through. But I was fine with it. Again, perfection's overrated. And then I run this through my Platinum 6 machine. And that applies the pressure. And I get this pressed impression. And you can't see it on the video. But in real life, you can feel the difference, even though this is just white cardstock. Because the thing with the Better Press is you want the good, either the Spellbinders Better Press cotton cardstock that is so beautiful, or I've had really good results with other watercolor cardstocks as well, because that's the whole point, is like that deep letterpress impression. But I can get a good impression just like this with regular cardstock too. It just, you can't see it, but you can feel it, and I love it. I love it. So I did it a second time on the second card base. Love so much, so very much. So got that off of my little Better Press system. And then I did the exact same thing as the citrus cards. I just adhered these directly to the card base with my craft tacky glue. Stuck the blocks on it, let the glue dry, trimmed off the excess using the edges of the card as my guide. And then I'm going to adhere the sentiments that I had foiled onto both of these card fronts. Again, just using some craft tacky glue. So not only are these, you know, simple, kind of clean and simple, they're also very flat, which is nice. Sometimes it's nice because it just makes it easier to mail. So got everything adhered into place. And then I'm going to use those same crystal clear enamel dots on these as well, which is also just fun because they kind of, especially when you layer them on top of other images, they'll look like little dewdrops. So adhered those into place. Once I get all of these adhered, these cards are also complete. And yeah, you can go so many ways with this. Like, same thing, you can press these onto watercolor paper and watercolor them, or I don't know. I really like the press plates. I wish I could show the shine of this ivory black. It's really pretty. And it's a neat look because, you know, it's not raised like heat embossing. It's pressed in, but then it still has the shine, which you can really see on this one. This is the champagne mirror foil, and I love chef's kiss. So apple cards, an orange card, and a lime card, hence fruity cards. Something a little different, and yet they all still have little flowers on them. So, you know, florals, wonderful. So those are my cards for today. As always, links to all the things will be in the description box below the video. If you just expand it, all the links will be there. All the supplies will be listed. I'll also have links to all of my social media, etc. If you want to check all that out, that will be linked below. And then you stay tuned to the end screen. I'll have videos there that you guys can check out if you're interested. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in supporting me over on Patreon, the link to that is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye.